Hey guys, it's Cassera, and today I'm going to be doing my July week 2 reading vlog part 2. Okay, so it's Tuesday, July 14th. I found out like within 3 days, end of Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I had already read 3 books and a bunch of graphic novel volumes, so I was just like, I have too much content for this vlog for it to be a single vlog, so I'm breaking it up into multiple parts. If you've missed part 1, I'll link it in the cards for you guys, so you guys can go ahead and check that out first, and we're gonna go into part 2. As always, I'm gonna start with the books that I'm currently reading. Rolling over from last week, we have The Empire's Ghost by Isabel Steger. I still have only read the little bit in the beginning, but this is going to be my priority this week. I should definitely be getting this finished because I also want to pick up the sequel for this. It really depends on how much I like this, whether I'll pick up the sequel or not. I'm really excited for it because the sequel is coming out next week, and I feel like I'm gonna really love this book just based off of people's reactions to this book and other people's recommendations of this book to me. I don't know going into it, it seems like the type of book that I should love, but I don't know. So we'll see, and hopefully I'll end up loving this. The other book I ended up picking up yesterday was The Curse of Chalian by Lois McMaster Bugel. So this is the book that won my TBR poll for, I think it was June, for the book that I'm gonna read in July. I finally got to it. I'm not super far into it. I'm like right about there. So I'm like on chapter 3. I'm listening to the audiobook and switching to the physical book. I've listened mostly only to the audiobook so far because, like I said, I have other physical books that I'm reading right now and I don't have other audiobooks that I'm reading. I don't know what I think about it yet. I've heard there's romance in this book, but I've also heard a lot of people recommend it as romance and it's not really, so I don't know. I don't know what it's about, but I'm excited to find out. And lastly, I have been obsessed with the Avatar: The Last Airbender comic series. This is book 5. This is the only one I have a physical copy of, and that's because all the rest of them are in back order right now, but I'm getting them from my library. Love my library. My library is amazing. I read the first 4 books last week / the beginning half of this week. I literally just started book 5. Each of them are broken up into 3 parts, but since I have the physical copy, I have all 3 parts in this one. So I finished part 1 of North and South, which is when Katara and Sokka finally go back to the Southern Water Tribe after like years spending with Aang. I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. I think part 1 I'd probably give like 4.5 stars, but I have a feeling some of the other parts in this I'll end up really liking. The art in this is just gorgeous. Like, look at that. It is stunning. I love the art in this series. It's so colorful and so bright. It's basically the same as the show, but still, I love it. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender in general. I can't wait to continue on. I'll probably end up finishing like the main Avatar: The Last Airbender comics this week. I've been literally speeding through them. Like, it took me half an hour to read part 1, another hour today of reading that, and I'll probably finish North and South today. I'll probably wait till tomorrow to go to book 6, which is Imbalance, and then after that, there's just The Lost Adventures, and then there's the Kyoshi books, which I know the second part 2 of the Kyoshi books, or book 2, comes out on the 21st. That makes me excited. I'm loving the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics so much. And lastly, I did mention last week that I was doing 3 rereads, but I only talked about one of them. I'm currently only doing 2 rereads because I finished one of them. So I'm still doing a very slow reread of both of these right now. As you can see, I still haven't gotten past the first chapter here. Haven't made a whole lot of progress on this one either, but you may hear a little update here and there. So it's still Tuesday. I did finish Avatar: The Last Airbender North and South. I really enjoyed this one. This one was surprisingly poignant. I didn't expect to like this one more than Smoke and Shadow, but I did. Like right now, in order of how much I like these, it's probably The Search, then North and South, The Promise, then Smoke and Shadow, and then The Rift in the last part right now. I really liked this one. There was a lot of politics in this, and just things that I've grown to learn about the world. Katara's learning that about her world too. I think that's really interesting. I really enjoyed this one. It is action-packed, but that's not what made me love this one. What made me love this one was really the character development in this one, which surprised me. Also, if you could see this like on the sides over here, there's commentary by the illustrator and the author, at least in this edition, and that commentary actually made me really want to go back and watch Legend of Korra. I watched like the first season of Legend of Korra and I was just kind of like, oh, this is not as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I was just like, not gonna watch this. I feel like when it comes to sequels, sometimes they're as good as the original works. Sometimes they're even better than the original works, and then sometimes they're not as good. And you know what? That's okay. And just because it's different doesn't mean it can't be as good. I only watched the first season. Perhaps the second season is better, or even the third season. I think there's up to 4 seasons now. I don't know. I haven't heard as much about Legend of Korra than I have of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but that also might be because it's been around a lot longer. So it is Wednesday, July 15th. I I am so tired right now. I don't know why. I'm on my lunch break between like the online trainings that I'm taking right now, and I had to step outside to get some sun because I don't know what it is. I've just been having like the worst day today. I started the Avatar: The Last Airbender comic book 6, I think it was, Imbalance, and I have to say I'm a bit disappointed with it. I finished the first part 1, because each of these are broken up into 3 volumes. The art style is completely different. It doesn't match the previous comics. It is nothing like the show art style. Like, the characters don't even look like they do in the show, which really makes me sad. Also, they tried to make it simple, but at the same time there's like a subtlety to it that I don't like. Like, for example, it tries to like put shadows like on their faces and stuff, and I'm just like, it's a cartoon, just don't do it. It's fine if all of the comics were like that, but just this one being like that annoys the crap out of me. Also, I feel like something's different with their voices as well, because with the other comics, like, I could very easily hear the characters' voices in my head when I was reading it. It felt like it was the same characters. In this one, it doesn't feel that way. Aang right now is making decisions that I really don't think he would make. So yeah, I'm really disappointed in this one. For part 1, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. I know, that's bad. I really love the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, but yeah, I'm giving part 1 2.5 stars. Hopefully it'll get better. It did set up some political things that I think is intriguing, but a lot of the things that I would want from the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, I'm not getting in this one. It's still Wednesday. I haven't made any more progress on like reading or anything like that. I literally just got off the virtual call for work. I just needed to stand up and walk around a little bit. I mentioned in like my last vlog, I'm working on a massive bookshelf reorganization where I'm gonna be unhauling a lot of books, and I'm going to be reorganizing my shelves. I wanted to just show you some of the progress that I made on that. It's still really messy, so it's not gonna look good. It's still a work in progress, but I wanted to show you some of the things that are happening. You could probably see right here, my background changed a little bit. Some of it is still the same, some of it is a little bit different. So my outward facing book were Heart of Flames and Queen of Nothing before. Now I have the Dragon Republic, which I'm really excited about. It's also no longer just YA on that top shelf. I have some adult fantasy on there, and that's mostly because this entire shelf used to be my YA shelf, and as you can see, most of it's adult fantasy. I still have a few gaps on those bottom shelves, but most of it now is actually adult fantasy. And then you guys never see the top shelf, but I figured I'd show you guys the top shelf over there. And then my regular adult fantasy shelf is much the same as it was before, at least the first 3 shelves. And those bottom 2 shelves are very clean looking now. They used to have all of these books that you guys are seeing on these bottom 3 shelves used to fit on those bottom 2 shelves with all of those books. That's looking a lot cleaner now, which I'm really happy about. My middle grade shelf is not looking great. There's some YA books on it. The Harry Potter shelf is just completely violated right now. That's not looking so great, so I still have to clean all of that up. But I still have, like I said, I have some empty spaces down here, and then I also have some empty spaces over there on my TBR shelf. All right, so I'm gonna move over to my other shelf. So first of all, my TV shelf, I finally put books on it. I put all my classics on the shelf because they used to be over in the corner here where you see these books now. So this are my miscellaneous shelves. So I haven't finished this either, but I have a little bit of a rainbow shelf over here going on. I don't know if I'm gonna keep that or not, but I like it. It's like my book of the month books plus like some random sci-fi books and really anything that fit that size. Like, for example, Prior to the Orange Tree is there, which is an adult fantasy, and that's like the only adult fantasy over here, but it just had a great spine for a rainbow shelf, so I had to include it. And then you can see the top of this shelf over here, we have some YA, a little bit more YA here, and then we got some like historical fiction / contemporary, random book in front of like all of my Stephen King books, and then it gets a little bit messier from down there, and then like the bottom is really empty. Like I said, there's still a lot of work to do. It's very much still a work in progress, but I'm excited to see where it's going. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but I used to have all of my nonfiction books on these. I actually moved my nonfiction books to a new bookshelf that I bought. It's like a little 3-shelfer in my office. That's the progress I've been making on my bookshelf reorganization. Hopefully I can finish it by the end of this week, and I can show you guys like the finished product. So I didn't realize that my phone storage was full, so I filmed this entire clip and I have to refilm it, and I'm just not in the right headspace for that right now. I think the last time I talked to you guys, I had just finished part 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender Imbalance, which was like 2 days ago, I want to say, because it is now Friday, July 17th. I finished the last 2 parts of Imbalance. I finished it that night, but I was just so upset. I think I said at the end of that, or maybe I was just thinking it, I don't know, that I'm gonna continue on with it because it can't get any worse, right? I was wrong. Part 2, worse than part 1. The characters are even stupider than part 1. The villain is stupid. I went on a whole rant about this in my mid-month wrap-up, so I will link that up in the cards if you guys want to check that out, because I went on a whole rant about this. Part 3 is even worse than part 2. I think by the time I got to part 3, I was kind of over it also. And then like this one little thing happened and it just kind of like completely ticked me off and I was just done. Reading that kind of just snapped me out of my reading high because I'd been such a big reading high from the Sword of Kaigen, and I don't think it helps. I'm kind of in a book hangover too from the Sword of Kaigen. And the fact that the 6th one was just terrible is really frustrating me. And I really haven't picked up anything over the last couple of days. I mean, I have, but I haven't. So most of what I've been reading is The Curse of Chalian by Lois McMaster Bugle. I've been listening to this on audio, and like I mentioned, I have been doing a massive bookshelf reorganization, which is pretty much done now. I think there's a couple of things that I might move around like a little bit, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how my bookshelves look. So I was listening to the audiobook while I was doing that. And well, I got to nearly the end of this audiobook only to realize I had no idea what was happening in this book. The audiobook was playing, I wasn't listening to it. I was doing my bookshelf and I was completely in my head really angry about a bunch of things. A lot of things are changing, a lot of things are happening. Next week I'm going back to my regular schedule, which is a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense that I'll be back on a regular schedule. It's a bad thing in the sense that it's a night shift. I'll be going back to working at 2 a.m., which is gonna be fun because I have to wake up at 1 a.m. in order to do that. That's gonna be fun, but it's okay. Like being on a regular schedule I think will help me. I honestly think it's easier than what I've been doing. I'll be happy once I get back into the swing of things, but I'm just nervous not being back into that yet, if that makes sense. I've been trying to pick up different things. The Curse of Chalian wasn't the only book that I tried to pick up. It's the only one that I made any progress in. I tried to pick up like 3 or 4 other books, and it's not those books' faults. It's because I haven't been in the reading headspace. I decided to restart The Curse of Chalian. I know, I got all the way to the end of it. What's the point? I'm gonna restart it because I actually do really want to read this book. I have restarted it at this point, and I've gotten to chapter 6, which is where I was before I did like all of my reorganization anyway. I did remember most of the beginning, but I honestly don't remember anything that happened after chapter 6. I think I'm gonna switch to the physical book for this one though, and the reason for that is because of this guy right here. This is The Empire's Ghost by Isabel Steger. I took the dust jacket off of it because a lot of times when I read my physical book, I like to do so in the bathtub. When I have a hardcover, I don't like to take the dust jacket with me because I feel like it could get wet, it might fall into the bath, or lots of things could happen, right? So I took the dust jacket off, and you guys can see this, right? It is completely white, like completely white. I am paranoid that I'm gonna like drop water on it. It'll get water damaged really easily and it'll be really obvious because it's completely white. So I'm gonna make this my audiobook and I'm gonna listen to the audiobook for this and I'm gonna switch to this one physically. I think I'm gonna make the switch to this one physically first tonight, and then tomorrow I'll start on the audiobook for The Empire's Ghost. July 18th, and I haven't been in much of a reading mood. I think I mentioned that yesterday. Part of it is I'm not in the right headspace for it. I'm reading things that move a little bit slower and are more character driven, and I just want something that's familiar, that I can just get into these characters because I already know them rather than having to get to know the characters. And I'm in a little bit of a book hangover from the Sword of Kaigen also. I wanted to try and get out of this like mood by doing a reread. As I mentioned earlier in the vlog, I'm currently doing a slow reread of these two. I just am not in the mood for Harry Potter right now. I want something that's adult high fantasy, so while I will continue on this reread, mind you, I haven't made any progress since that first time, but I do want to continue on and finish the annotations for this. I will continue on with this eventually, just not right now, which leaves A Storm of Swords, which I started this reread back in May because I was in a reading slump back then, and this was really working for me back then. This is not the right kind of book for the type of slump I'm in, because I want something that I don't really have to think about that much. And while I like this world and it has great characters, it's just not right for the mood that I'm in right now. I decided to stop this reread because I didn't get very far into it anyway, and it's not like I don't know what happens. Like, I know what happens and I love this book. It's just not the type of mood that I'm in right now. So I'm putting this book down for now. I will continue the reread eventually. I don't know when though. Maybe this year, maybe not this year. It really depends on how I'm feeling. But for now, I'm putting this back down, which, by the way, just because I'm putting it down doesn't mean I don't love that book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I'm just not in the mood for that. And so I decided to pick up my reread that's on my TBR for the month of July, which is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. And I'm really excited for it. I actually started it already. I'm like right there and I'm enjoying it so much. I don't remember that much about The Poppy War itself because I read The Poppy War when it first kind of came out. I got this book afterwards, but when it first came out, I didn't know if I was gonna like it, so I didn't want to buy the new hardcover like when it first came out, because I generally don't buy new hardcovers unless they're like favorite series of all time or books that I know is gonna be my favorite. And this was really popular on BookTube, and I generally don't tend to really love books that are really popular on BookTube. I know that's terrible, but I generally don't love them in the way that this one was really popular, because they generally tend to be more YA oriented. And I feel like this book kind of lulls you into a sense of complacency because the first half of it is set in a school, so people assume they're reading that kind of fantasy book, and then they get to the second half and realize they're reading a grimdark fantasy book, and that's when I started loving this book. Mind you, I'm still loving the school part, but I read it for the first time when it first came out. I never reread it. I had meant to reread it in anticipation of The Dragon Republic, but I didn't reread it, and I just read The Dragon Republic. So I remember The Dragon Republic a lot better than The Poppy War, and the characters are kind of in different positions in The Poppy War than they were in The Dragon Republic, and it's really interesting to me how they started out. I don't know, I'm loving this. I'm loving this so much. Definitely got me back into the reading mood, and I'm so happy about that. I'm really excited for this. I'm going back to my parents' house for like a day or so, maybe like 2 nights. This is the only book I'm gonna take. I don't think I'm gonna finish it during that time because I won't have that much time to read, but I just feel like right now I just want to read one book, and it's gonna be this one, and I'm excited for it. Okay, so it's Monday, July 20th. So the last couple of days I haven't really talked to you guys about very much, but I did start The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I didn't think I would have that much time this weekend to read, but it turns out if I'm really into the book, I find time to read it. So I am right there. Mind you, I've been switching between the audio and the physical book, but I read a pretty significant amount of it physically. I'm gonna be finishing this probably tonight, maybe tomorrow, because I want to go through the ending a little bit slower than I did last time, because I feel like the first time I read this book, I like sped through it because I was just super into it. So I've been trying to read it slower. It hasn't been working, obviously, because I read the majority of this like within the last 48 hours, not even, but I'm really enjoying this so much as I did the first time around. It definitely really got me back into the reading mood. I mentioned I was reading both of these. It's gonna hurt me just a little bit because I'm so excited for both of these, but I'm in a very specific mood that neither of these fulfills. So for now, I'm gonna put these on pause, which scares me because a lot of times I put something on pause and I never end up going back to it, but I have every intention to get back to both of these books eventually, preferably before the end of the month. I want to get to these, but I don't know if that's gonna happen, but hopefully I will. I'm enjoying both of them, but like I said, I'm just in a very specific mood, which is Asian inspired fantasy, which neither of these are Asian inspired fantasy. So these are gonna be going on pause. No, I'm not counting them as DNFs. I definitely will be getting back to these. So instead tonight before going to bed, I wanted to start a new book that is not a reread because The Poppy War is a reread for me. So I decided to pick up Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is also on my TBR for the month of July, so I feel like I'm still following my TBR, but it is an Asian inspired fantasy, so I feel like this one could potentially be very good for me. I don't have the audiobook for that one though, so once I finish The Poppy War, I do plan on continuing on with The Dragon Republic, which is also a reread for me. But like I said, I'm really excited for The Burning God coming up very soon, so I'm really excited to finish The Poppy War and The Dragon Republic, and hopefully I can also get to a significant amount of Jade City. Otherwise, this week has been a little bit of a fail because I only finished, so technically it's 4 things, but it feels like 2 things to me because I finished the Avatar comics North and South and Imbalance, and that's all I finished this week, and it was very hit or miss for me at the end of the week as opposed to the beginning of the week where I loved pretty much everything I was reading. So yeah, it's been a weird week. That's all I have for you guys today. If you've read any of these books, let me know down in the comments because I would love to discuss with you guys. I post videos on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. And if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.